This is a 5-star book that every fantasy reader should read. Before I give you some of the context, I'll just explain a little bit of what the story is about. It's about a fortress that is in a mountain pass, and it's the only place between kind of an empire in the north and a country in the south, and that fortress comes under siege. That's very simply the whole plot of the book. Now to the context. This is David Gemmell's first book. It came out in 1984, and in 1976, 8 years earlier, he was undergoing testing for cancer, and while that was happening, he decided to write this book, and he called it Against the Horde. Basically, the whole siege of the book is kind of a metaphor for his body being under attack from cancer. Fortunately, he didn't have cancer, and so he just forgot about the book. A friend actually got hold of it and read it and encouraged him to keep working on it, so he actually did, and he eventually published it 8 years later in 1984. And although it was a standalone at the time, it basically became the start of what became known as the Drenai Saga. The best way to talk about this book is to focus on the characters. There are really two main protagonists. First one is Druss, the actual legend of the title, and he's a 60-year-old guy. He's had a string of incredible victories in his past, and everyone knows about him. The other is a much younger warrior. I think he's in his kind of 20s or 30s, and he's kind of reluctant to continue being a warrior. There are a bunch of other characters, and sometimes it's not easy to distinguish amongst some of them, but there are some really great minor characters. Like there are two random foot soldiers that give you an experience of what it's like lower down the ranks. They interact at certain points with the main characters, but really they have their own story. Now, I've already explained the basic plot. The first half of the book is kind of getting towards where that siege happens, and then, yes, there's this siege with overwhelming odds. The empire to the north is massive, and the guys in the fortress are just so outnumbered, it's ridiculous. And because of the nature of this siege, there's a lot of character development in terms of characters dealing with loss and musing about their own deaths. I just briefly touch on the world building. It's just a typical kind of sword and sorcery fantasy setting, kind of Lord of the Rings, but there's no elves or dwarves, and the magic system is just a soft magic system. There's nothing especially different to your standard fantasy setting, but it doesn't feel thin. It feels like a lived-in world. Funnily enough, I always like maps. There's no map in this book. There was a map of the world that was put into later books, so I'm not going to be talking about the map. The map I showed at the start was from one of those later books. Anyway, the story moves at a steady pace, and there are some lovely, unexpected character moments, and it's the ending that raises this absolutely up to 5 stars. The last 100 pages have quite a lot of heartbreaking moments and just extreme heroism in that sense of laying down your life for someone else. It's just truly heroic in every sense of the word. There are some things where you can tell this is an author's first book, but they're pretty minor. So yeah, this is one book that every fantasy reader should read. It's not even all that long. It's 430 pages, and it is a standalone. You can go on to read the rest of the series, but it ends and everything gets wrapped up, so you don't have to keep reading if you don't want to. But I reckon you'll want to keep reading more of his stuff. So let me know, leave a comment. Have you read this book, and do you agree it is a 5-star book? Also be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.